Everything is what? Last week I said what?
Every guy has his own soda.
Yes. What? I'm convinced. I'm convinced. Every Breslover in the world, I love this. You see, this is like you didn't hear about this. We hear about the story with the policeman. I loved when the people are locked into this is the only way of thinking, and there's no other space. Every time, and by the way, I was one of these people. It took me 3 weeks to change this mindset. In Breslov, we were conditioned that when the Rebbe is talking about the Baal HaSada, it's the Baal HaSada, it's the Tzaddik. And so there's no space for anything else other than what we were conditioned, because Dairis, they learned Paparoz l'Chachma, Bir l'Kutim, everybody's learning, and when they're talking about the Baal HaSada, they're talking about the Tzaddik. So Vadat's talking about the Tzaddik. We're not saying that it's not talking about the Tzaddik. But what we are saying is that if it's just talking about the tzaddik, you're familiar with a little bit, even the fact that everybody knows the word Baal HaSada, it's a Breslau, it's like says bevada yoda. You know what I'm saying? It says bevada yoda. I mean, everybody knows the Baal HaSada, right? When you talk about the Baal HaSada, we're talking about the Rebbe, talking about the tzaddik who takes care of all the neshamas. So this Torah that's talking about the Baal HaSada seems like we're talking about the tzaddik, and everything is relevant to the tzaddik. And yes, the tzaddik is going to go into our diburei tefillah, but really, and the Rebbe is talking about what is diburei tefillah, and there's a thing of making it echad, and there's a bittul, and there's a reshima, and we go back through the whole process. But really, it's all about the Baal HaSada, because all we're doing, Malki, Shalom Aleichem. Whoa. So it seems like that all we're talking about is that the Rebbe is the Baal HaSada, and that we need to do, and which is true, but there's another nakuda here, and Mully, this is the first time you're coming here, I just want you to know that I make a disclaimer, there's nothing that I say here that is pshat in Likutei Moharan. Nothing. So I'm not saying pshat, because nobody could say pshat in Likutei Moharan, because the Rebbe is beyond. I'm saying visa shaint mehaint, in my journey, in my place, and this is what's giving me connection to Hashem and avodas Hashem. So anything I say, the disclaimer is, I'm not saying pshat, I'm saying perhaps, maybe, possibly, and even if I don't say it, I mean it that way. Okay, now, so we were talking about like this, that last time I was here, we spoke about that that in this Torah, it's mashma, so one second, so the question is, if we're talking about the tzaddik and only the tzaddik, what's the relevance to me? It's beautiful. So you Rebbe, you're going through this whole journey of Yisurim, and you're mamish going into bittul and reshima, and you're making echad gewaldig. Was hat es mit mir? And it's impossible that there should be a word in Likutei Moharan, not ois in Likutei Moharan, that's not relevant to me. So now, if that is true, so now we can open space a little bit differently. All the Gedolim of Breslov, Yoran, the Krim Tarain, and Nachman Fried, he's going to say, I'm going to be mechadish something. No, chas v'shalom. I'm not excluding what they're saying, I'm including. I'm saying that perhaps the Rebbe is telling us that every Yid and every neshama is a Baal HaSada. Everybody's a Baal HaSada. And what is my Sada? And my Sada, the Rebbe, if you see in the Taich, in the end, the Rebbe says, Vayom Eboy Zaruz, right? So let me just find the Lashon. The Rebbe says, Al teilchi lilkoit b'soda acha. Al teilch, that Boya is told, don't go take any likutim b'soda acha. Ki kol ha'oizis v'adiburim hem likutim yikorim shemelaktim b'soda yisel yonis. First time the Rebbe says in the whole Torah, soda yisel yonis. What do you mean? Is there two sodas? Let's start. So now let's ask a question. Is there more than one soda?
The whole time the Rebbe says hasada.
Hasada. But now the Rebbe says besoda. And in Kitzur Likutei Moharan, by the way, I saw this 2 days ago. Even though I don't cheat, it's a shtickle cheat, because according to the way I'm telling you to learn, it's too early to go into anything other than the Torah. But I saw that Rabbi Nachman says in the first statement in the Torah, and is there kids here? He talks about when he's being Mevayir Sif Aleph, he talks about Soda Yisel Yonis. So that means Reb Nosson, who was Minei Obey more than anybody in the world, right away saw kesher to what the Rebbe says at the end of the Torah about Sodas Elyonis. So that means there's more than one Soda. Vadai. Yes? Sodas Elyonis. So perhaps, if there's more than one Soda, and then let's ask another question. The Rebbe talks about the state Soifim, right? The state Soifim. And how does the state Soifim, Kashana Shomas, Oisim Peiros, the Hainu, Oisim Retzoinu Shom Mokoim, right? The Rebbe says, as a Bechina state Soifim. And what happens by the state Soifim? I'm sorry if there's anybody that doesn't know the Torah and I'm jumping all over the place. I'm assuming that the Olam is into the Torah, but stop me. Just stop me. If you don't understand, stop me, ask anything. This is not a shir. This is a chabura that we're learning together, and everybody feel free to say anything or ask anything or start. I don't know. I'm talking from Yediyah, not from Yediyah. So again, state soifim. If the whole thing is empowering the Balasada, how is there a state soifim? Through the neshamas that are oisim etzayin neshamakim. I understand. So the Balasada, his power is coming from us. Where are we coming from? What are we doing? So what are we doing? What do I have to do? What's the prescription? Rebbe, what do you want? I know you want to get a state soifim, you want to be misakin all the neshama, so what's the prescription? What do I got to do? What's my avodah? What's the ritzoyin neshamakim? Is there a recipe here in the Torah for ritzoyin neshamakim? No chazach, that the Rebbe says that the nefesh is the basa seichel, which means that vayoyim aboyaz aruz, the seichel is talking to the neshama. If the seichel is talking to the nefesh, whose seichel is talking to the nefesh? The Baal HaSoda seichel? So who are we talking about? It's meduyik. I'm telling you, Nazan, if you keep going through the Torah and you go with this space, not the Breslov way of learning, that it's only talking about the Baal HaSoda, you're going to see that it's very, very, and once it's talking to me that I'm the Baal HaSoda, so what's my Soda? Where's my Ilonis? Where's my Yisovim? Where is the inside of the Soda and what is outside the Soda? So is everybody following? Am I losing anybody? Please tell me, stop me now, because I have something very beautiful to say. I think that I heard it, I was talking to Mati Gottlieb about it, and I think it's mamish, really, really, I think, again, not pshat, but it's beautiful. The Rebbe talks about the Diburei Atfilah. And the Rebbe says the most romantic lashon in the whole Likutei Moharan here, of the bond and the love that the Diburim have with the Nefesh. And the Diburim beg the Nefesh, Al Yisparad Mimani, don't leave me. Migoydel Ahava V'eskasha Sheyesh Beinenu. Because you, Ata Yodea, you know Yekar Yofi V'zivi V'adori V'sefarti. You see my beauty. How could you leave me? If you love me so much and we're so connected. By the way, what does that sound like? We're just, I just want to show a connection. The Rebbe talks about Yisurim. And the Rebbe talks about converting the Yisurim into Tzimon. Which, right, the Yisurim is Tzimon. So, doesn't sound like the Yisurim of Tzimon, and that's the real, the Yisurim, does sound like that maybe this lotion of yearning and thirst and tachnunim, that's not normal tachnunim. Doesn't that sound like tzimon? It's connected.
It's an expression of it.
It's what? It's an expression of the tzimon. Very good. So now let's go into. So that's where I'm going exactly into that place. So if dibur, so let's understand. Dibur is the most limited thing. The Rebbe says that the dibur. Let's go. The Rebbe says the seichel. Let's back up. The moyach is the klei ha-seichel. The Rebbe calls it klei ha-seichel. The nefesh is the bas ha-seichel. So what's the seichel? What?
Soda?
No. What's the seichel? The soda is the. But what's the seichel? What's the seichel? If the moyach is the klei ha-seichel, and the nefesh is the bas ha-seichel, why is it the bas ha-seichel, not the ben ha-seichel? I don't know. But where's the ben? And why dafka bas als keli? So then the seichel, then the moyach is also a keli legabe the seichel. So I don't know, but one thing I do see is that the seichel is the re'iyah. the Rebbe goes into a lengthy explanation about vision. And he's saying to us a real lengthy explanation about that vision. Re'iyah is the tool, the meshoras, v'shliach haseichel, to go to the object, to see the davar rochak, the tachlis, and when it brings it back to the moyach can't handle it. This vision is able to go to a place of Ein Sof, but the moyach is not able to go to the place of Ein Sof. So when we talk about the seichel, it's what the seichel that's coming back to the moyach came through the meshoras v'shliach haseichel, which is the re'iyah. And the Rebbe is telling you, ikar re'iyah hi ha'yediyah. The Rebbe says that the ikar re'iyah is the yediyah. So if the ikar re'iyah is the yediyah, so that means that the seichel is what goes into bittul, the seichel is what's going into the sodas al yonis, and what is it doing in the sodas al yonis? So now, there are two things that the Rebbe said about the dibur. Two things that don't really sound like they're connected, unless anybody else could tell me a connection. One thing the Rebbe says that the dibur is like going into a soda and being melakit these beautiful tzitzim, sheishanim uvrachim. And melakit, likud, means I'm taking something from there, from the soda, and I'm bringing it to me, right? Then the dibur is part of the nefesh, and the dibur is now separated from the nefesh, and it's crying, begging, don't leave me. 1 second. Is the dibur coming? Am I being melakit, or am I giving out? Kishiyoytza hadibur. Which one is it? Is it both? And if it is both, how does it fit? So perhaps, again, but I just think it's beautiful, but perhaps, I don't know if it's emes, I'm saying again, Seshayint mehaint, derzach, that's all that, I think it's mardi, that the dibur, where does the dibur come from? Where does the nefesh come from? Who's the father of the nefesh? Seichel. Where's the seichel coming from? We just went through the map.
Yeah.
From the Riyah. And where's the Riyah hitting? Where's it going to? It's going into the Sada. The Sada Sel Yonis. So now, let's understand that maybe, perhaps, when the Riyah goes into this bittul, into the Sada Sel Yonis, what's the Reshima that comes back? What comes back from the bittul? The Shoshanim, the Tzitzim, the Prochim, whatever that is, whatever you're bringing back, the Rebbe calls it Simcha, but whatever the simcha is, whatever you're bringing back, those are the sheishanim, the tzitzim of Prochim, before they were able to become dibur b'chlal. Because it was dibur in the sodas al yonis, but in my mayach, it's not dibur until it comes back, the reshima. I get the chidush and the so we'll talk about the yisurim in a second. And then I'm giving it over to the nefesh, and the nefesh is now giving the dibur out. So the sheshanim tzitzim of Prochim that I'm collecting from the sodas al yonis, and the dibur that's yoytzem imeni is coming out from the low part, from the nefesh, without Kabbalah, without neshama nefesh. We can fit into Kabbalah too. I don't know Kabbalah, so I don't know what I'm talking about, so I can just say words, and I'm not going to even attempt to say it. That there's a neshama nefesh, ruach, neshama chay yechida, and memela, it's coming through the whole process. The bittul is chay yechida, and the neshama is the moyach, and we can make pretend words, but it fits. It does fit to any language that I've heard before. But the bottom line is, now I start hearing something that the dibur, the re'iyah is limited. The Rebbe is saying dibur. Well, how did the Rebbe start the Torah? Da ki yesh soda, right? And what is read the words? Da ki yesh soda, and what do we say? I want to say the words Azovi the Heilige Rebbe Zoktis. V'shom gedelim ilonis v'asavim yofim v'noyim ma'od. V'goydel yekar yefei hasoda v'gidulov I efsha l'saper. You can't put it into dibur. Ashrei ayin rosazois. Because the place where the dibur starts is in the sodas elyonis. So now, let's bring it full circle. I think it's mamish to dance. I'm ready to dance on the table, whoever wants to dance with me. But I'm saying it's mamish to dance, if this is emes. Now, if that's true, we vada there's a balasoda. We have to be medayik what Chaim Chiyusim means in a second, but there's a balasoda that yochel ligmar se'inyan, and he brings everybody into the soda. But he needs to be a state soifim. And in order for him to be a state soifim, I need to be misakin my soda. How am I misakin my soda when I go into echad of my soda? Is it possible to make Oyser Shalom and still be holding Baruch Atah? Is it possible for you and me to do it? I tried. I couldn't get more than... But I'll tell you, I was thinking, the Rebbe says that you take the Diburim, and each Dibur is nichlal, the Diburim from before. So I tried. Slach Lanu. Yeah, that's the easy one. You know, Slach Lanu, that's my easy place of... Slach Lanu Avinu. So, there's no way. There's no way. And even if you want to say... Now I'm thinking about my Slach Lanu. To make echad that I can make, the teretz I think is you can't make echad. The only way you can make echad from the tefillah is by thinking about the tachlis. The only way for you to think about the tachlis is stimas einayim echazud hayam. And what does it mean? You're going to say, can I go to Bittul? Come on. Did you ever attempt going to Bittul? I attempted. But it's not true. The Rebbe is telling you such a secret here. It's unbelievable. Al kein nitva b'teva ha'odam listoy me'seinayim. The Rebbe is telling us that the teva of every human being, when they feel pain, they close their eyes. Why? Because they're going to the tachlis. They're going to Bittul. Even though they don't know, ha'odam einu yoidea, aval ha'nefesh yoidas. The nefesh knows that it's going into Bittul. So the Rebbe is proving to you that each and every one of us go into Bittul subconsciously. The nefesh knows, not the Adam. Can you imagine if you were just conscious? If you just attempted, yeah, it's going to be distracted. Yes, you're still not going to be in the perfect Bittul. But every time you do it, you're going to come back with a Reshima. And the Reshima is going to give you a Chidush and Deraisa that's going to be Mechaber the Tzimoin on Nefesh. And you know what's going to happen? The next Bittul is going to be better than the previous Bittul. Because it's continuous. And why is it going to be better? Because you just empowered the Baal HaSoda, the real Baal HaSoda, the Heilige Rebbe, that you empowered him with a state Seifim to be able to see your Dubura Tefillah, how far you are from the Tachlis. And the Heilige Rebbe is going to bring you back to the Tachlis. And you know what happens when you're going to be able to make echad from the tefillah. Every day your tefillah is going to become more echad and more echad and more echad. So I think that's, I don't know. Anybody ready? I think that, again, not pshat, but now there's a different Torah. 3 weeks I'm struggling with this Torah. Beautiful. I got them. I think I got it. I didn't get, but you know, the map of the words. And you start, and I'm trying to figure out where is it. This now talks to me and tells me I understand the prescription here. What's the prescription? And it's interesting. The Rebbe doesn't talk about a moon. It's most of the he's not telling you skashas to the tzaddik. Everybody learns this Torah. Balasada, skashas to... No. It's the Balasada. If without me giving the tools, there's no state soifim. It's a state boichim. You know what a state boichim is? State boichim, it says that, I looked up the source of it. It says that it's a soda that's next to the Beis HaKforos, that everybody comes there to cry on the mace. It was a mission in others or something that there was so stay boichim. So and what and the Baal HaSoda who went through all these. So we wanted to be Medai Chaim Chiyusa. Someone told me, I don't know if this is. I'm not saying again, I'm just repeating the words, but just something he says. You know the Sichur of Naftali. Anybody know what I'm talking about? The day the Rebbe, when the Rebbe said, I think we said this last time. When the Rebbe said this Torah, it was when his son Shlomo Ephraim was nifted. Rebbe had tremendous yisurim. Rebbe was crying, and Reb Nazar and Naftali saw Rebbe crying. They walked out. And the Rebbe said, well, afterwards, why did you walk out? If you wouldn't have walked out, I would have told you a much bigger Torah. And they said, this is Me'ain the Torah. This is the Papa Rosh Chacham brings this down. The day before the Rebbe was passed away, so the Rebbe said, there's alofim, revavos, he stressed revavos, neshamas that are waiting for his ticket. So Naftali asked the Rebbe, but you said in this Torah, Vayom Abayazarus, that the tzaddik, B'chaim Chiyusa, you have the time of the Rebbe Naftali had today, he said, B'chaim Chiyusa, Yochel Ligmas Inyan. So why do you have to? And the Rebbe was telling him, I'm dying. They don't want to believe that he's dying. And he's saying, what do you mean? You said, and the Rebbe answered him, that's only a bechin. In other words, that, and the Rebbe's meram is that Mashiach is going to be the only one that's going to do it, B'chaim. That was the Rebbe. So someone told me, I don't know who, I don't remember, in Farakwe, the Kollel in Farakwe, Baruch Klein. Baruch Klein told me, so he said, why did the Rebbe say Chaim Chiyusa? It's a terminology to say Chaim Chiyusa. He's really alive. Not Chaim, it's Chaim Chiyusa. So he wanted to say that Chaim Chiyusa also means La'acha. That means even he continues to be the Baal HaSoda, even La'acha. And he wanted to say that is the thing. I'm just repeating the words, but we Vadai believe 100%, and we see it's not, it's Yediyah, it's not a Munah anymore. That the Rebbe, it's not even a question that the Rebbe is the Baal HaSoda. The Rebbe is grabbing our neshamas, and the Rebbe is ma'oira us, and everybody that feels that we were talking about this before, and we got 2 new guys coming to Uman, right? That had Meniyas. Anybody else have Meniyas? So anybody who has Meniyas, the Meniyas that they had are not your Meniyas. Their Meniyas we were able to take care of. But the point is, when you feel that feeling of yearning, the feeling of ishtoikus, the same way that the Bura Atfila are the Yolonis and Asavim, that the Neshamas that are inside, the Bura Atfila was saying that what's the Sada? If we're all Baal Sada, so what's my Sada? So you could say, my dependents, my family, that's my Sada. Rebbe says in Torah Nun Vav, I think, in Torah Nun Vav, that Malchus, every person has their Malchus, yes, Sar Bebeis, or yes, Sar Bebeis, yes. Or you could say, my Sada is my Diburei Atfila. And my Diburei Atfila, every Dibur that I talk, that I'm not trying to make echad from, they become Neshamas Arumas. They fall out of the Sada. They're my Neshamas Arumas. They are falling out of the Sada. And then there's sometimes Diburei Atfila, Tevas Atfila, that we're in the Sada, and then they also fall out of the Sada because I stopped trying to make echad. I stopped going through this process of Bittul and Rishima. And if that's, again, perhaps, possibly, remember, this is not Pshat, I'm just saying, but if that's true, that these are my babies, these are my neshamas, so that maybe that's my Yisurim. I was trying to find the kesher between the Burim and Yisurim. I still don't have it. I'm not going to say that I have it. But and maybe anybody can help me here. Anybody that's learning the Torah, what is the Rebbe is telling me? I'll tell you a nice diuk that I thought. The Rebbe says there's 2 avodas here, right? There's a avodah of making echad from the dibur, and there's a avodah of making echad, going into the place of kulei tov kulei echad from the yisurim. What's the kasha between the yisurim and the diburim?
The same words. Yasser bin Chavi, the kasha Yasser Ishas B'noi is Muslim. So when you talk them in a certain way.
So that's Yisurim. So you're saying Dibur is Miyasa. Where do you see it in the Torah? No. I'm not saying no. I'm saying by the way, this Vadei Kesher. So I was thinking when we were still talking about that the Baal HaSoda is the only Baal HaSoda is the Rebbe. If you notice, it's very interesting in the Lashon. The Rebbe says that there's 3 types of Baal HaSoda. Misha Roit, and by the way, another thing, Misha Roit Zalach Gamosnov is a raya that anybody could be the Baal HaSoda. Misha Roit Zalach Gamosnov, anybody, whoever wants to be the Baal HaSoda can be the Baal. Great kasha, but he says you have to be Ish Omud V'Tzadik V'Chochem V'Gibachayim. Exactly, everybody can attain it. It's not a shayla. So the Rebbe says when he talks about the first type of Baal HaSoda, so he says Ish Omud V'Tzadik V'Gibachayim V'Chochem V'Tzadik Gadol Ma'oid. Ki tzorech liyos Adon Gadol U'Muflik B'Mayla Ma'oid. The Rebbe uses Ma'oid a bunch of times in the Torah. Then he says, "V'yesh echad she'eni yochel ligmor inyan ki ma misosay." Afilu zeh tzorich li yisgadol ma'oid. Ki yesh kama v'kama gedolim. By the way, also on Lashon that the Rebbe uses 10 times in the Torah, kama v'kama.
That's not the same one.
What?
That's not the same.
No, it's not. One thing, if he died, if he didn't die and he wasn't able to be ligmor, he died and he wasn't be able to be ligmor inyan. How could the same one do b'chaim chiyusa?
No, I mean that's the first one as Misha Ritzalacher.
Must no.
That's
Which one are we talking about? We're talking about all three of them.
Right, but where's the third?
There's a third one. The one is that he can be goymer even in Misa. One is that he can be goymer with Misa, and then another one that's doing b'chaim chiyusa. But notice that when the Rebbe says, "V'afilu zeh tzorich li yisgadol ma'oid, ki yesh kama gedolim she'afilu misosim, rak im yesh adam gadol umuflag b'mayla ma'oid." The Rebbe, and he also calls it gadol and muflag b'mayla. Like there's two things, and then here this balasoda ma'oid, he has to be ma'oid l'chayr because he has yisurim v'dvarim koshem also. Yisurim v'dvarim koshem. What dvarim koshem is not yisurim? What's the Rebbe telling me about dvarim koshem? I don't know the answer to this, by the way. I'm just saying things that bother me.
What's the ticket that they have to do over there?
What?
What's the ticket that all these tzaddikim are being nice
Us. They're not.
Foreign caution means foreign words, and the words are not the shleimus.
Beautiful.
That's the.
Wow. That the the dvarim are outside.
Right, and that's the yisurim. Yisurim is that my words are not.
I think you're right. I think 100% you're right. I think the yisurim is that the dibur are falling to the shamas arumas. That they're falling outside the sada because I'm not making echad. I think you're 100% right. But still, I need more.
Because
I need more. Something it's not sitting right. What?
Like you said, the dibur only comes from the dibur down here is really a reflection of what came from the Sodas Elyonis.
Okay.
So the dibur is falling to the outside, and you're missing.
Then you're missing the whole connection.
Whole thing, right.
Yeah. So that's the. He said beautiful. Dvarim, very nice. By the way, very nice. He's saying Dvarim Koshem is Diburim Koshem. Beautiful. Similar to your Ratzah B'Shoy, by the way.
What are they suing for? He says.
What?
What are they suing for? To bring us to Bittul.
Yisurim is to bring us to Bittul, yes.
Right. So how do you do Bittul?
By closing your eyes. You're doing Bittul every time you blink. How many times do you blink? That's Bittul. You don't know it. The Rebbe says it before. I didn't say these words. The Rebbe says these words. Look at the Soif of Siv. What?
You're blinking from Yisurim?
Of course.
Yeah?
Of course. What do you mean? You're Chazudaya. What's the Yisurim? According to Tefira,
right.
Chazudaya Alma. So if the Yisurim is this world. The only way out of it is to be Stimas Einayim Chazudaya. Because first of all, it's a murder.
What's the most intense form of Stimas Einayim?
Okay, you just went off on a tangent. I love you, but it doesn't say that in the Torah. I don't give me from any other Torah in Likutei Moharan when we're learning this Torah. This, when the Rebbe said this Torah, he didn't say any other Torah. If he would have, then he would have said it.
The blinking.
Nothing that you have to. I have to. Yeah, the blink. By the way, I said it Derech Hagav because it hit me in the car on the way. I told it to my wife on the way. I said, "Whoa, could it be that every time you blink, you really stimas einayim that it's your instincts, your nefesh that's telling you stimas emes."
It's crazy.
I don't know if it's emes, but it sounds great. But anyway, the point I want to bring out the point. So I was thinking that maybe the balasoda that's able to do it b'chaim chiyusay again chayim chiyusay is yisurim dvarim koshem gadol v'muflag b'maylo ma'oid. I'm just saying my feelings. This is it sounds like from this language that the Rebbe is telling me. So maybe possibly that this balasoda that's able to do it has to be ma'oid in the making the dibur echad and ma'oid in making the yisurim echad. If you want to say the yisurim and dibur are two things, which that's how pashtus it sounds from the Torah, even though I don't believe so, I believe that it's one. So maybe the lashon of ma'oid that he's doing, he perfects both the echad in yisurim and the echad in diburim. According to what you said with the yisurim and dvarim koshem, it's mamish as though you give out. So maybe that's why he says ma'oid. That was another thing that hit while we were doing the Torah. But I want to tell you something. I could not connect to this. It took me too weeks for sure to be able. We learned Torah Chafei, and I didn't want to leave it. I didn't want to leave Torah Chafei. I never learned the Torah in Likutei Moharan ever. And I've been learning Likutei Moharan for a long, long time, but never that had an impact on my life like Torah Chafei. And I remember the Olam here was feeling it too. I mean, it was on a different level. I didn't want to leave. Okay, and I look at the Torah. I'm like, yeah, beautiful, but for Rosh Hashanah, I want what? Oh, so what? By the way, Rav Nosson, look at the halachas over here. The whole halacha is about Rosh Hashanah. But right here, first of all, here's a present. Take one. Yeah, I'm serious. This is
all about what
inside it. It's a long halacha, but beautiful halacha. It's in Tfilas Arvis Dalet. Tfilas Arvis Dalet. The whole he goes into Rosh Hashanah on the whole Torah. Mamish, he goes through the whole thing of the Baal Sada in Likutei Moharan. So anyway, the point is that all of a sudden, when it opens up, it was me that was, I was distracted. The Rebbe talks about the Riyah, that's Meval b'noizim and atzad v'nespaz aruz v'nikla aruz, and it gets weaker. I couldn't connect Aleph, Beis, Gimel, and Da. I couldn't see. All of a sudden, I don't know, a week ago, I don't remember when the last time I was here, started opening up, and when it starts opening up, it gets overload. You ever had brain overload? It's mamish overload. And then, that's the bittul. Then you go into Yisurim Gedolim Ma'oid that are more intensified than the Yisurim before, because you get into that disconnect place. Then you remind yourself, but it was lovely, it was beautiful, that feeling, the simcha, and you get new chidush and deraisa with kalim, with new kalim, and you quench the thirst, the tzimoyin nefesh that is yearning for the Baal Sada. So if the dibur, by the way, if the dibur is my sada, and my dibur and my sada is connected to the sada Zel Yonis and to the Baal Sada, so it's very easy to understand how we are connected to the Baal Sada, even though the Baal Sada is that all of a sudden there's a yearning, there's a shtoikikus. I'm telling you, I can't wait to be by the Rebbe. I cannot wait. Rosh Hashanah can't. I wanted to go already. I had minis. I was supposed to leave Tuesday. I'm leaving Sunday. This year is going to be bigger than every year because it's harder and there's less people. How? This is the year that I'm going to let go? Every other year, take another year and let go. Not this year. This, you know what the payoff is this year? You know what the connection is going to be this year? You know what you're going to feel this year? It's going to be authentic, beautifuful, no riffraff, no dvarim and atzad to take away my riyah from being bittul. Mistimes einayim echazur daya. Because that's what we're going for. We're going for 2 days to feel stimes einayim echazur daya. Bittul. Then we come back, then we got problems. But there, we don't have problems. So, anybody who feels, and I'm sure everybody feels what I'm talking about, because the Rebbe is talking to us, the Baal Sada is talking to us, and we are talking to him, mevakshim, umetzapim, umamtinim. And we're waiting and waiting with our eyes. Please, Heilige Rebbe, take me into the Sada. So I don't think there's a doubt that Avada we have many years. Is the monkeys? Of course. Is the Putin? Yeah. You could walk outside here and you get hit by a car too. You understand? When you are destined, and if it would be Sakonas Nefoshes, they paskin that it's not Sakonas, where Rabbi Yankee Meir is going. Yeah, Rabbi Yankee Meir said, Rabbi Yankee Meir, I forgot about it. Rabbi Yankee Meir is going. Rabbi Yankee Meir is going. I also heard Laser Berland is going, but Rabbi Yankee Meir is going. But anyway, the point is, I was there. I told this to you, and I'm telling everybody. I promise you that I didn't see. That doesn't mean a raya, but I traveled 10 hours in Ukraine and 10 hours out of Ukraine. And I'm telling you, there wasn't a zeicher, nothing. I went through the gas stations. We went to the mall. We wanted to buy fruits. We went in Khmelnytsky. We went to the mall, and packed. I'm talking about jam-packed, not just packed. Packed. Oilam Kemenogit buses. You saw people in the city in Ukraine, in Khmelnytsky, which is right next to Mezhevitz. In Uman, I didn't see. I was at night in Uman, so I can't tell you what Uman was during the day. But the there's no zeicha other than the curfew, which then it's choshech hafela. When I say choshech hafela, I'm telling you, I walked out of the B hotel to the bus, which was to our car, not a bus, we had a van. It was, I don't know, the car was on the top, and we had to walk. Pachad, there's no lights. There's no lights. There, now you're thinking Ukrainians all have guns, and that monkey I felt for a second. But not when there's going to be, first of all, they're bringing Shmira, and the government sent Shmira, and the government wouldn't let us in. It doesn't make sense that they're letting us in. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. They're letting, in time of war, we have a festival, call it a Jewish festival.
What happened today after the Ukrainians gave back from...
Yeah, they're on offense now. They got really strong military. They got so much weapons. They got a lot of weapons, and they're on offense. Ukraine is on offense, not on defense, right? So that's even another, okay, it's Ukraine pushing them out right now. Now you could say the Rebbe says in this Torah. Where does the Rebbe say in this Torah? By the way, that's another thing that stam. Living the Torah, if we're learning Torah Samachay, all current events, everything that happens in your personal life is all in this Torah. It has to be. It's not because I make, you crazy Breslov. It has to be. Did I pick Torah Samachay? No. Did Breslov pick? Who picked Torah Samachay? Who decided who's coming to Uman and who's not coming to Uman this year? The Baal HaSoda. Not me. So it must be relevant. It has to be related. So,
where did the choice of Samachay come from?
What? I think Mati. I think at the end of the day it was Mati. I think so. I don't know. No, we wanted the problem is it was of El Tishrei. It's a very hard. Av is Ben Ezmanim, Tishrei is Ben Ezmanim. So it was so they didn't want to pick a Torah that would be like we did Torah last winter. We did Chav Beis for 6 months. You know, what? And it wasn't enough. I'm telling you, it wasn't enough. It was not enough. Remember, with Chav Beis was not enough. It wasn't not enough. But so every Torah, you think 3 months is enough for this Torah? It's not. And you come to the Torah, at the end of the Torah, you feel like the Dibon, and you say, I don't want to leave you. How do I leave you? So the same thing, but in this Torah, the Rebbe talks about this thing, that why is the Yisurim get more intensified? After you go into Bittul, Rebbe brings a mashal, like two people fighting, which I don't understand the mashal, the nimshal, by the way. But the Rebbe says, there's two people fighting, one gives a guy punch, so he gets even stronger, right? He's going to give it. So who knows what, we don't know the outcome. But the point is, that's also in the Torah. Ukraine, and then there's Abkim, there's a fight that's happening. Part of the Yisurim, it's part of the process, part of the Meniyas, but we need to get to the Baal HaSoda. There's no question. The Rebbe said, Ish Baal Yeda. Who is he talking to? Famous story, everybody knows the story, with Rabbi and the Rav, right? Rabbi and the Rav. Everybody knows the story. So, you want to be Beryl or Aaron? Even if, I don't know who you are, if you're Aaron, but I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy where the Rebbe said, if they would have come, I would have been, what is he saying? He would have had a big estate Zoifim. What did the Rebbe say? What would he have? He would have big estate Zoifim, be able to be Misaka more Neshamas. Who knows if I'm not the missing link to changing the whole picture? Who knows if I'm not going to be the one to bring Mashiach? My Neshama. Not because I'm such a big guy, because I'm such a small guy. And such a small guy picked you, the Rebbe needs. How could I? The Rebbe made a cruise. And he said, don't come for me, don't come for you, come for me. This Rebbe that gave us everything and gives us salvation, with Tikkun HaKlali, with every kind of thing, was klekta yetshuva, ich tu tshuva vay. The Gomain Zachas Rosh Hashanah. When you put that on the scale of my Meniyas, I have to be Moisei Nefesh. Now, each person has different Mesiras Nefesh, but at least my Ratzon has to be, I want to be by the Baal HaSoda. I need to empower the state Tzofim for me, for my Diburet Tefillah, for all my Averis, for all the Neshamas Harumas that I created, that I need to bring back into the Soda. So, Heilige Rebbe, please, Ish Bal Yeda, Kol HaOlam Kuloi Tolui B'Rosh Hashanah Sheli, Loi Mi Boya Atem, Ela kola oilam kule. When my father said this to me, I was growing up. I have to say this. We have 4 minutes. I was saying this when I was growing up. So I want you to understand the picture of Breslov. There was 30 Breslov Chassidim in the entire United States that were begulli, and maybe another. Let's give it another 30 benista total. I told you, I went to yeshiva, and in 9th grade, my Rebbe asked me, it was at Malki and Benny Weisz, and he asked me, what's your name? Every day, the first day, he asked me, what's your name? And I said, Nachman. He said, who you named after? I said, Rabbi Nachman. He said, Hosta under I said, yeah, Yitzchak. He called me Yitzchak the whole year. Wow. The only person in my life, other than my grandmother, who I'm named after her father, no one calls me Yitzchak, never, except for these 2 people, my grandmother and him. He couldn't, and then years later he met me in Tzfas. He said, I didn't know what Breslov is. We were near Duffin. I came. What? Nachman Fried. So we were near Duffin. They used to burn. Let me tell you, I had good bakram. They took, because of Shik Svarim, whatever, they took the Likutei Moharan and they burnt it. In recess time, they burnt it in front of my eyes. Toitach Chassidim, that we got such edifice. So when my father told me then, think about it, I'm a little kid, and he's telling me, listen to me, the whole world is totally in the Rebbe's Rosh Hashanah. I really looked at him, he's out of his, he's not normal. Yeah, sure. And then he takes me to Moran those years. We went to Dam Yerushalayim first. Erev Rosh Hashanah, I met Rav Levi Yitzchak and Tzvi Ayalipel and all. And then he takes me to Moran for Rosh Hashanah, and there was 700, 800 people, maybe. And most of them were in Breslov. People who like to come to Moran and think. And they all, and this is Breslov, and you're telling me, look, the whole world is telling the Rebbe Rosh Hashanah. Today it's not a suffix. There's not a living Rebbe that attracts more Chassidim from something that he said 220 years ago that's not confirmed that he really meant afterwards, and it's Rav Nosson that learned that he meant it afterwards, and this is taking on its own life. And in war, there's going to be 20,000 people in the middle of a war going to the Rebbe's Rosh Hashanah. So, it makes sense. It's divine. It's beyond. Don't you want to be part of it? How could you not? So I'm encouraging everybody that at least the rotzen, you've got to have the rotzen that I must be by this Baal HaSoda. I'll tell you another story. My father, when he was 12 years old, when he was 12 years old, he was in Makurv already 2 years, and he was 12 years old, he had a friend, Moshe Eisenmesser, who was a very chashuv, older, and he was learning in Eretz Yisrael. Moshe Eisenmesser, he wrote a letter to his friend. He writes to him that I was Rosh Hashanah in the Mir Yeshiva. My father lived next to the Mir Yeshiva, and he said I was Rosh Hashanah in the Mir Yeshiva, and I asked my mother for permission to go down by the kibbutz in the east side. There was a kibbutz in the east side those days, and my mother didn't let me, so I went to down in the Mir Yeshiva, and I closed my eyes, and I imagined that I'm together with the Breslov Chassidim on the east side, and I asked Hashem, 12 years old, and I asked Hashem that next year, in this 1956, I should be Zoicha to be by the Heilige Rebbe in Uman for Rosh Hashanah. The gaguim that they had then, to be by the Rebbe seeing for one tikkun hakloli. Everybody knows the Reb Shmuel Shapiro story. Reb Nosson said that, I said this to you, I said, Reb Nosson said that if he knew that the Rebbe told him he doesn't, you could action as a Chaim not to come back as a Gilgul. Do whatever you want with me here, don't. And the Rebbe said you should do that. Reb Nosson says, if I know that if they maftiach me in my lifetime, I come to the Rebbe seeing once, and he wasn't talking about Rosh Hashanah, once, I'm ready to come back to this world. Reb Nosson was not a stupid person. Reb Nosson wasn't a fanatic. He had a lot of yeshiva das. Look what Reb Nosson, everything that we have is from Reb Nosson. And he said that. So how could we question the Rotzen? At least the Rotzen has to be 110. Then the rest, Hashem Yazor. Thank you.